Welcome on in. This is the RotoWire Fantasy Football Podcast, the Super Bowl 60 preview edition. I'm your host, John McKechnie. That is Mario Puig. This podcast brought to you by our friends over at Dabble. We've got the Seahawks and the Patriots. Memories of Malcolm Butler dance through our collective memories as we get ready for this one. We got Drake May, Sam Darnold. The stars are aligning. Very excited for this one. I think it's going to be a great game. We're going to break down pretty much everything that we can as far as this game is concerned. I feel like at this point, it's been like 10, 11 days since we last had football. So we're just kind of itching. I feel like we've uncovered every stone here and just tried to think of every single permutation of how this game is going to play out. I think I'm pretty set on how I see this going, but we're just going to kind of talk it out and get right into it. So for starters, Mario, we have this game set as the Seahawks 4.5-point favorites in this one, and our over under checking in at 45.5 points. So your initial thoughts on those particular numbers out there?
I'm a little surprised that the line is still 4.5 for the Seahawks. It had been around some places anyway. It was around 5.5, closer toward the weekend / beginning of the week, the turn of the week, I guess you could say. So there's, of course, almost always a really sound basis for spreads, especially in such a visible game as this one with so much money on it. There's good reason to believe the spread is soundly reason too, and upsets can occur. Of course, there's always the unexpected that can occur, but basically we have reason to suspect the Seahawks are the better team of these two, even if it's only by a little bit. We have reason to believe that the Seahawks are kind of the better team, or at least we have reason. We can assume most of the money is assuming that, and I'm picking the Patriots. I've been picking the Patriots. I can quickly admit I might just have been wrong. I might have just missed something. It's certainly not that I want to underestimate Seattle. I'm not underestimating Seattle exactly. It's just I see this as a game where it really might a matchup, I should say, where it really might be they go 5-5 out of 10 games. And so if you're taking a one game snapshot of such closely matched opponents, I have trouble anyway thinking through the proper weight to put on each individual scenario that could happen. Some of these things that we know could happen, how likely are they, and how much is it worth wagering on these possibilities? It's like things like a Marcus Jones punt return, or a Rashid Shaheed kicker punt return, Will Campbell's stubby arms not reaching out to stop what's his name, and causing a fluky fumble and a fumble return for a touchdown that didn't really happen in the prior games for either of these teams. I worry about that kind of really the unexpected turnover causing a really momentous. I'm worried about a Super Bowl where we get an MVP like Larry Brown or Desmond Howard or something, because some unlikely big play was made by some player who normally doesn't really factor into the calculus that much for either of these teams. So I'm picking the Patriots as a result of a process where I kind of just and I'm not even saying this is a good process, but it was just kind of looking at the matchups between these two teams. I see it as just kind of like strengths running into strengths, sometimes weaknesses running into weaknesses. But in any case, distilling down to a matchup between Drake May and Sam Darnold, and I simply reasoned that May is the better player. But it's with no conviction at all that I make that prediction, because Sam Darnold has a lot more shelter than Drake May. So it's not as simple as it's not truly that these quarterbacks will just kind of shoot it out between each other. It's more like Drake May has to play a more difficult game than Darnold and has to do more for his team to win than Darnold does for the Seahawks to win.
Sure. I think that definitely makes sense. I mean, the Seahawks have a little bit more star power on the offensive side of the ball. Kenneth Walker's had a tremendous postseason. Jackson Smith and Jigba, we all know the type of year that he's had, and Shaheed can be this crazy take the top off the defense, X factor who can also back.
I really strongly feel like Clint Kubiak has done a better job this year's offensive coordinator than even like the Ben Johnsons and the whatever else is like this is different, the kind of thing that that Kubiak is on right now.
I know. So it gives me some modicum of optimism for the Raiders. Maybe we'll see. But
absolutely, at least their offense.
Yeah, but let's drill down a little bit further here. Let's just kind of talk about both sides of the ball and what's going on with each. So when the Seahawks have the ball, what are your expectations? Where are their matchup advantages or disadvantages going up against this Patriots defense?
The strength of the Patriots defense pretty obviously is in two places. It's the interior defensive line, and it's wherever Christian Gonzalez is lined up. I'd also say Marcus Jones, whenever he's going against a smaller slot receiver, he can be pretty nasty. And even against some of the, let's say like a 6'2" receivers, like Marcus Jones can kind of swat at the rim a little bit, even against a receiver like that. So yeah, there's the two really good corners, at least situationally in the case of Jones. And there's this defensive tackle rotation where Khyiris Tonga doesn't play that many snaps, but has quietly been a very good two-gap run specialist, a nose tackle kind of player, basically. So he's good, and in a game like this might play a bigger role than normal just because the Seahawks are more run-dependent than most teams, and keeping Tonga in there to isolate like Gray Zabel and the center at the same time, get Anthony Bradford teed up against Milton Williams or Christian Barmore. That's a problem for the Seahawks if that happens. So if the Patriots defense were to get the upper hand, I think it would have to do with Barmore, Williams, and a little bit of Tonga too, collapsing the interior offensive line. Again, Bradford especially is where that might give. And if you as the Patriots can control that area, you can remove the easy yardage from Kenneth Walker. And then if you can get Sam Darnold in a 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10, that's where you're more likely to get the Darnold that screws up. Clint Kubiak has done a really great job of keeping Darnold out of those situations. Of course, against the Rams never even got close to stressing Darnold. So you could reasonably look at Darnold's big game against the Rams and just sort of declare he's a good playoff quarterback now, something. I don't really see it that way. I think he'll need more cover in this game probably than the last one. I think whereas the Rams front seven personnel is strictly one gap personnel, and especially in terms of run defense, they are just not serious. Barmore can play two gap football. Tonga is a two gap specialist. The Patriots really can, if they're really good on the interior, they can get Kenneth Walker to go 2 carries for 2 yards to start a drive, and that's really where you need to get Darnold. It's just that even in that position, even at that point, obviously, even if the ball is going to JSN, in conjunction with Kubiak's really deliberate scheming and JSN's really uncommon ability to create short area elusiveness, it's really tough to get Darnold to take that unnecessary risk, even in that 3rd and 9 or whatever it is, because if it's Gonzalez on JSN, that doesn't really change a whole lot. I would have to think JSN is probably one of the toughest matchups in the league for Gonzalez, just in the sense that Gonzalez's talent is largely expressed in his reach and speed, and JSN doesn't really cover that much ground. It's more like he quickly goes into an intermediate or shallow depth while leaving the defender confused about whether he's going to break left or right or stop and come back the entire time. And it's just, particularly with the Kubiak's deliberate designs also synced up with JSN, it's really tough to stop him from those underneath gains at the very least. And of course, if JSN gets enough underneath shots at you, any corner is eventually going to jump at that when they think they're seeing the same route for the 3rd or 4th time, but it might be a double move. So JSN I view as pretty much I view JSN not as truly unstoppable, but very unlikely to be stopped. And as long as that part of the game is working for Seattle, they can afford to take those 2 carries for 5 yards intervals from Walker, and just have the luxury of continuing to lean on that to try to tire out a little bit that otherwise very good interior defensive line for the Patriots. And otherwise, as far as the big play goes, you got to get something off tackle probably. I don't know how susceptible the Patriots might be to screen passes. I feel like Vrabel is probably pretty good at coaching his team on the general issue of shenanigans, being a person who commits them so often himself. But
Sure.
if you do get Kenneth Walker in a screen setup where it's off tackle, so you don't care that the Patriots are good on the interior, and there's like a blocker or two ahead of him, that's probably an easier way to get a big play than anything through the interior. And yet the Seahawks do have to keep expressing that interior rushing intention, even if the returns are slow.
So this isn't screen specific necessarily, but both of these teams have proven to be kind of bad against pass catching running backs. I'm checking out our defense versus position page over on rotowire.com. You can check that out. Again, if you're not subscribed to us, you get 15% off if you use that code YouTube15 when you go to rotowire.com. So it looks like the Patriots, they gave up 587 receiving yards to opposing running backs on 117 targets, high catch rate, that type of deal. And then the Seahawks were actually pretty bad at this as well, relatively speaking, giving up 746 yards. But again, these teams have played more games than just about anybody else, with the Seahawks at 19, the Rams at 20. Go on.
John, I was just going to say, I think what I would actually take away from these numbers here is that both defenses have sort of funneled a lot of targets, a high share of the opposing team's targets to the running back position, but they've also done a pretty good job of containing it when it does. So for instance,
the yards per target is low.
Yeah. So it's like this is fine. This is a good thing to keep in mind for especially like a PPR projection for Ramondre Stevenson or Kenneth Walker, because even if the yardage isn't there as receivers, there's reason to believe that 4 or 5, who knows, maybe 6 catches might be there. And even if it's only for 30 yards or something, that could be, 8 fantasy points pretty easily. So
it's also the difference, like you were getting at earlier, where you're talking about the Patriots want to get the Seahawks behind schedule a little bit, get the Seahawks to a point where Darnold has to beat them on 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9. So those easy yards to Kenneth Walker potentially out of the backfield, 4 or 5 yards at a time, based on those yards per target figures allowed by the Patriots defense, all of a sudden, a 3rd and 8 is instead a 3rd and 4, much more manageable. And, then you factor in the Kubiak effect and how he can kind of operate and get things going in those 3rd and short situations. So I think that's a good kind of distillation of how these teams defend the running backs in the passing game. Our guy, Fantasy Meatball, wants to know about Robert Spillane, and he was not practicing as of Wednesday, so kind of murky on his status as we record this on Thursday afternoon. So in your mind, if he is out or limited, where does that kind of go to the benefit of the Seahawks defense? He's obviously had a pretty solid year there for New England.
Yeah. On the one hand, I don't really regard Spillane as particularly good, but if Jack Gibbons, the next guy, is bad enough, it could still be a meaningful difference. A real loss for the Patriots if they don't have Spillane. But yeah, it's just Walker mostly. I mean, George Holani's going to probably play 20 snaps or so, but the last time he was out there, it seemed like they tried to make him more a pass blocker than actually, Holani did have those 3 catches. So as far as like your single game slates or whatever, Holani makes, I guess, sense as a punt play, even if you're also in on Walker, just because, as we were talking about, the Patriots seem to funnel a lot of targets to the running back position. If Holani's out there, he could get a little too, but more so Walker. And it's, especially, I was kind of thinking, like we were just talking about a minute ago, it's like that screen pass setup for Walker, some kind of off tackle thing. I know it's easier said than done to just go off tackle when the interior is blocked, but I really don't want to run at the interior of the Patriots defense except for the structural function of sort of setting up the play action and keeping the Patriots defense with bigger personnel. Walker off tackle, Walker in the screen game against Gibbons might be something that Kubiak goes after if Spillane is out.
And then, last kind of details when it comes to the Seahawks and their offense, how it projects here against the Patriots defense. You get beyond JSN and Walker, who do you have your eye on as far as guys that could be sort of like X factors here? Is it Cooper Kupp's last stand? Is AJ Barner someone that you have your eye on potentially? I know you just mentioned George Holani, but I mean, the Seahawks have shown that maybe their depth isn't overly impressive on like a name basis, but like they're not afraid to use it anyway. I mean, we saw Jake Bobo score the touchdown against the Rams. We've seen some other kind of random guys throughout the year score touchdowns for Seattle. So once you get past those kind of like top build options there for Seattle, is there anyone else that you kind of have your eye on?
Well, I don't really know what's going on with Elijah Arroyo. If he was truly a healthy scratch for the Rams game, then that would be a little bit weird and certainly would make their second round selection of him look dubious even this early. If Eric Saubert is taking those tight end 2 reps, then it means that that Saubert is not catching those passes, and therefore it would leave a little slack more yet for I don't know how to put probability on any of these 3, but it seems to me it's like after JSN, it's a pretty equally likely it's equally likely that any of Rashid Shaheed, Cooper Kupp, AJ Barner draw the next most targets, and in Shaheed's case, certainly you can imagine him doing the second most damage, even if he doesn't get the second highest target count. But Cooper Kupp or AJ Barner is where I see the most kind of central tension there, because it's one of those things. One of them could and probably will do something useful, but the odds of both of them doing useful are not very good, especially if JSN is doing anything at all. So if I was making a single game DFS lineup for this game, I would want JSN, and maybe this is the the fish in me. I would probably want JSN on every single lineup, and I would otherwise maybe have Cooper Kupp on one, AJ Barner on a second one, but not the two of them at once. I think it'll come down a little bit to what the Patriots are showing, of course, but even more so yet, it'll come down to the deliberate intention of Kubiak in his play designs, I think, because if Kubiak decided in the film study this week, Marcus Jones is good, but if we send Kupp on this play action look, he can, to kind of throw him an elbow, get an opening in the red zone, that kind of thing. If Kubiak decides that, then I expect that play to happen. But if Kubiak doesn't have that level of intent, if it's more like Barner or especially Shaheed, that is, I would want a Shaheed lineup too. He really is an X factor and a player who is, for how sporadically he appears in the box score, Shaheed, in my opinion, is a pretty much constantly effective player. It's more that when he doesn't appear for a while, it's because Kubiak's kind of trying to save the play for a little later, because you do want to save that kill shot for when you really need it.
And this would be the time to use it in the big game, of course. Let's get on over to the Patriots' offensive side of the ledger and how they stack up against the Seattle defense. Before we do that, a quick message from our friends over at Dabble. Dabble isn't just another DFS app. It's the ultimate social platform where you can connect with other fantasy sports lovers. Dabble lets you win big. You can win up to 5,000 times your money this football season. Starting with Dabble is easy. New users get $25 free when signing up. No deposit necessary. Check out the link in the episode description below to download Dabble now. Also got a quick message from our friends over at Blue Wire. We have time traveled ahead. We are now looking at the Patriots offense going up against the Seattle defense. Kind of a notable thing to keep an eye on here as we get to the later portion of the week. But Nick Emanwari, apparently the star rookie for Seattle, hurt his ankle in Wednesday's practice. So the electrical substation claims yet another. It seems like, so we're going to have to wait and see as far as his status is concerned. But if he is out, or limited in this one. Not to cut off your entire spiel on the Patriots defense, but I just did want to start there, or Patriots offense, but I did want to start there when it comes to any potential impact of the safety personnel being a little bit hindered here for Seattle.
Yeah, Nick Imanwari was in the draft and played at South Carolina pretty much at safety, but for the Seahawks, he has more so played what you would call slot corner, but it's obviously one of those things where it's more conceptually just the safety's playing in the slot now, and it's a 3 safety look, and it's a kind of thing you can stick with as a base defense, because if your slot corner is 6'3", 230 and runs a 4.38 or whatever and has a 44-inch vertical and all these other things with Imanwari, I was guessing those, I might have been wrong, but some degree, but Imanwari is arguably the most athletic player in the NFL. Like he's in that category, and for a player who's largely playing a new position this year, he's been kind of scary good. He could be one of the very best defenders in the NFL very soon. So if Imanwari were out, that would be a pretty substantial loss for the Seahawks. I mean, if you redid the draft today, there's no way Imanwari falls to 35, and he shouldn't have fallen to 35 in the first place. There's a handful of players in the 20s and even in the teens that it's like, oh yeah, Imanwari is definitely better than these guys. So not to panic too much. Maybe he'll just kind of get back into practice today. Who knows? But certainly the clarifying details on Imanwari's status are worth watching, because if he's not there, the slot definitely gets, not to say it'll be easy or anything. I don't doubt Mike McDonald is prepared for various complications, but losing Imanwari would be a pretty substantial one.
Absolutely. So, I mean, it's maybe like what I mean, you said that his role is a little bit more hybrid, so it maybe wouldn't just be as easy as like this is a smash spot for Hunter Henry. But tight ends have largely been effective against Seattle
Yes.
for this season. Just taking a look there, check it out. About 8 yards per target, 72.8%.
They've been bad against tight ends
catch rate. So I mean, I'm always kind of a Hunter Henry slappy, big fan of his, but
Me too.
I felt like that he might be like that X factor for the Patriots here, and I feel maybe even a little bit more strongly about that given the Imanwari situation.
Yeah, I think Imanwari at least as often as tight end would be lined up against a slot receiver. So in 2 tight end sets, I think he would have seen a lot of, or he would see a lot of Henry and Austin Hooper, but Hooper might go even better yet against someone like, I don't know, I don't want to slander the guy, but Drake Thomas. I feel like if I was running Hunter Henry somewhere as the Patriots, I would like my chances against those linebackers better than Imanwari. And either way, as you said, Hunter Henry is a good player. I know what was that game that he had a bad drop in? Was that the Denver one? Like, that's not normally him. Normally Hunter Henry is pretty close to automatic, just seems quiet because he doesn't get called upon as a pass catcher as often as some other pass catchers. I do like Hunter Henry as a DFS type pick in this game, though, just because those Seattle tight end allowance numbers are pretty tempting. It's the case where the volume is pretty high and the efficiency is high. So even if it's sort of a concession decision by the Seahawks, even if it's just the result of a strategy where McDonald's saying like, we'll bend and not break, let the tight ends get their 7-yard catches. If that's sort of going into it a little bit, it would complicate Henry's projection a little bit, but I really think that there's just too much signal there with that much volume and that high of an efficiency allowed to tight ends.
Yeah, like again, obviously the Seahawks have played 2 more games than say the Bengals have, but they still had their opponents target their tight ends 158 times against them, which ranked the second most in the league. I guess you can explain that a little bit given the division, because you got 4 games against George Kittle and Trey McBride. But at the same time, I think that the point stands that the overall efficiency numbers and volume numbers against Seattle, it points to the tight end potentially being a big factor there. I think when it comes to the Patriots game plan. Let's look at the Patriots backfield a little bit further. So the Seahawks were great against the run this year, just giving up 3.5 yards per carry. So I think it's been pretty clear that Ramondre is the guy for this New England backfield, at least for the remainder of this run this year. So, how does he project in this particular setup against the Seahawks? What do they bring to the table as far as their run defense goes?
Well, I don't think Henderson's totally, locked out of the room at this point, but of course, Stevenson has earned some level of trust from Vrabel and McDaniels that Henderson simply has not, and I would imagine it has to do with just the way Henderson finishes his runs and just the tendency of Stevenson to get a little bit more reliable of yardage between the tackles, the most contested part of the field. That's where Vrabel and McDaniels, I think, are pretty clearly placing a premium when evaluating these two players. And right now, Henderson, and maybe never will Henderson be particularly good in that part of the field, but it is something that the Patriots are, at least in that Denver game, they were obsessive about the point of, like, we have to keep the defense biting at the interior. Like, we just have to. We will not consider we won't consider relenting on this. And so some kind of extreme stance like that, I think, must be the explanation of how they could have a somewhat extreme outcome of Henderson just playing 4 snaps in a game where Stevenson played 70 or whatever. So there's of course something there, but when you really look at that fixation of the interior and the importance of the interior, especially in that Denver game, I think you can chalk up some of it to the weather and the fact that the Patriots could not use a lot of parts of their offense that they normally do. And so if you can't throw downfield, if you're throwing for under 100 yards as an offense, the field will get smaller on you. The defense will get bigger, and they will stop defending honestly parts of the field that they normally would. And so in that particular situation, I could see, Henderson is maybe close to useless, because if he has nowhere to run, he just gets swallowed up. Whereas Stevenson, if he has nowhere to run, he can at least make the defense work for it a little. Like they're gonna have to land their shoulder pads. They're gonna have to drive through the whistle. With Henderson, he's more likely to just kind of slip or get his ankle slapped out from under him because he doesn't really run with much anchor. Just the same, though, if the Patriots, if McDaniel feel like they have some room to work with, if they feel like the field has space that can be attacked, then Henderson comes right back in. It's just, it'll still have to be more like a ceiling of like 25 snaps maybe. And I still think the Patriots, though, should try. I mean, if you can get Henderson in those situations where he was ripping off these big plays as recently as like 6 weeks ago or whatever that was, you absolutely should take it. I think it was just more in the Denver game. They probably correctly assumed it's just not possible.
Yeah, they just had to do 3 yards in a cloud of snow and just like do what they could to get the small amount of points that they needed to get out of there with the win. I don't think that I mean, it was Denver's defense too. I mean, really one of the best, if not the best in the league. So it was always going to be tough sledding in that situation. But I think that in this game, neutral conditions as far as the weather is concerned, at least we expect you can check out the weather on RotoWire. Actually, we got a football weather page, so check that out. But I think we could see a little bit more Henderson in this game too. I'm not ready to jump ship on him as being a factor
as a prospect.
In
not
this
at
game.
all. He's
definitely
still a
not.
Good player, but yeah, it's like it has been weird. I wish someone had got the intel on like what it is that Vrabel and McDaniels are so particular about, because that 4 snaps, that warrants an investigation.
It does. Let's see here. I'm looking at Ramondre Stevenson's page. He hasn't fumbled since week 5. So the ball security has been very good for him, especially, relative to
good player, man.
last year.
I thought he sucked, but he's good.
he does. I think that people get hung up on fumbles like the same way that you talk about like people get too hung up on drops sometimes. I mean, fumbles obviously a lot more impactful if you lose them, but he really kind of has cleaned that up. I mean, the fact that he had 3 fumbles lost in the first 5 games of the year and hasn't coughed it up once since, I think that shows a lot of like growth or some sort of fix to the way that he's toting the rock, to where I used to be like, oh gosh, like there's going to be a Stevenson fumble sometime here, but I feel less strongly about that now.
The Seahawks will go for it. But yeah, sorry, I was just gonna say, John, like Stevenson could have. I didn't mean to make it all about Henderson. Like I think Stevenson is quite good, and if the Patriots win this game, Stevenson will probably have a central role in that outcome.
Yeah, so let's see his odds to score a touchdown. He's plus 135 for an anytime touchdown in this game. So the highest likelihood, according to the odds makers, of scoring a touchdown among the Patriots, Kenneth Walker and JSN, are the other two at minus 185 and minus 110 respectively. Let's look at the other pass catchers here for New England. So your Stephon Diggs, your Kayshon Bouttes, Pop Douglas, Mac Hollinses of the world. How do they set up against this Seattle secondary?
I don't really know, honestly. I feel like there's a lot of peculiar strategic decisions by both the Seattle secondary and the New England offense this year. There's a sort of selective deployment, especially of a player like Mac Hollins, or I guess you could even say Demario Douglas. It's like he only plays 15 snaps, but when he's on the field, you have to sort of say, that guy, watch out for him. It's only 15 snaps, and yet there's a sort of deliberateness to every time the ball goes somewhere in the Patriots offense, and I can't tell what it's pending. The weird thing with the Seahawks secondary is they sort of rotate Reek Woolen and Josh Jobe. I know Woolen looks like the big idiot again after whatever that thing was. I can't remember what it was against the Rams that he screwed up so bad.
He taunted and then got toasted.
Right. Yeah, so that was brutal. That was Tariq Stevenson type scenes. But Josh Jobe, even if he's more punctual and if he's more just reliable than Reek Woolen, he's also a lot smaller and a lot slower. And sometimes at corner, you want a guy who's able to jump out of the gym and run down anybody, and Reek Woolen can do that. So nonetheless, you have this weird thing where they're rotating those two guys. Devin Witherspoon and Eamon Warry pretty much never leave the field. And then they're doing like a boundary corner rotation, which is that's an odd thing. So I have to believe there's some sort of on the Seattle defense side, there's a deliberateness to when Reek Woolen and Jobe are on the field. I doubt it's just you get one, get one in, get one out. I don't think that's how it quite splits up. And I'm curious, of course, like, well, what basis is that then that they send out Jobe instead of Woolen or vice versa? I don't really know, but I feel like both of those guys are at a disadvantage against Stephon Diggs, and I probably give the benefit of the doubt to Stephon Diggs even against Devin Witherspoon too. But Witherspoon would be tougher than the other two. So if the Seahawks make a decision to line up Witherspoon against Diggs, that could be interesting. And even if Eamon Warry is out, Devin Witherspoon can just move into the slot. That's where Witherspoon was their slot corner last year before they got Eamon Warry and moved Witherspoon to the boundary this year. So if Eamon Warry's out, you might see Witherspoon shadow Diggs inside and out. And while I wouldn't give the benefit of the doubt to Witherspoon exactly, that is definitely a tougher matchup for Diggs, because Diggs against Woolen, he can, as much as I was just talking about how Woolen's kind of good in my opinion, even though he looks bad so often, Diggs can definitely get a 6'4" corner to cross up his ankles and just fall over, so it is something to keep an eye on. I think it would be smart of McDonald to give serious consideration to shadowing Diggs with Witherspoon just to keep Diggs away from the other guys. And if Diggs gets shots at the other guys, I think he can do pretty quick damage. Even Eamon Warry, I mean, if Eamon Warry's healthy and in the game, a 6'3", 230 rookie who was playing safety until 3 months ago doesn't really want to have to cover Stephon Diggs in the slot in the Super Bowl. So it's one of those things. I think Diggs' production is far from assured, but it has been there pretty clearly on a per snap basis all year. And if you're picking the Patriots to win, I think you might want to sort of assume Diggs had something to do with it, if only because guys like Hollins, Kayshon Boutte, even Demario Douglas, they pop up occasionally, of course, but they're more like the final. They're like a condiment, like they're not really the central reason that the play worked or whatever, or the game plan worked. It's more like they have a role part to play, and they do. And Mac Hollins is seemingly to me the more likely one to get viable targets than Kayshon Boutte. So for DF fantasy purposes, whatever, in this game, I'd see Hollins as the sort of let's call him the wide receiver 2.5 or something, and Boutte the wide receiver 3.
Okay, all right. Here, I'm going to pull up the team trends here. Try to get a look. I have this filtered to percentages, but yeah, pretty nifty. I love this page. It's basically all the players and their target shares by week. So it gives you a nice little picture of who's cooking the most at present time, or you can isolate it by week. Like Mac Hollins topped out with a big target share against Buffalo back in week 15, then missed some time, came back with a 10% target share. But when you see these types of round numbers, it kind of goes to show you that New England didn't test Denver too much high volume wise through the air. It was more true games against Houston and the Chargers as far as like your passing volume was concerned. But to your larger point there, it's Diggs and Henry, and then it's sort of a grab bag as far as the next guys up are concerned. You look at the average target shares: Diggs at 22, Henry at 17, Hollins 15, Boutte 14, and then Pop Douglas down at around 9%.
Yeah, and Boutte should be the he might match Hollins' target count, and he might have the higher snap count of the two. But the reason I gave Hollins like the 2.5 nod over the 3 for Boutte is that, if only because Hollins' average depth of target is lower. So if Boutte gets the same number of targets as Hollins, it's likely going to be a higher reception count for Hollins. Even though there's probably the higher ceiling for Boutte, because when that long range shot does land, it's the more likely reception to go to distance. It's just that happens once every 6 games or whatever.
Alrighty. So with that in mind, I feel like we've covered both teams. So I'll just ask you how you would build. You've alluded to different DFS builds, but like say you're building 2 DFS lineups, one with the idea of the Seahawks winning, one with the Patriots winning. How are you formulating both of those?
So I kind of want to cheat a little and refer to what I mentioned before. Please. About the Seahawks offense, because I view it as JSN is mandatory, kind of Walker's mandatory, but the second pass catcher for Seattle is a big the answer to that question is a momentous answer, because if something like 2/3 of the lineups are if only like 1/3 of the lineups have Cooper Kupp, and it's a down game for AJ Barner, and Rashid Shaheed does not make a shocking big play appearance, it might be Cooper Kupp who gets again that the deliberate Clint Kubiak shot. If Kubiak decided, I want this shot to go against this Marcus Jones because he's just too small to defend this particular look we can set up, then Kupp would be that guy. It's a totally plausible scenario in my opinion, and yet it's not likely exactly, and it certainly isn't more likely than Rashid Shaheed catching a 60-yard bomb, or even AJ Barner catching 6 passes for 50 yards in a 1 yard 3 tight end play action three tight end formation, play action, touchdown. Those things can all happen. It just comes down to these happenstance things and decisions made by Clint Kubiak that we cannot know. But if I have to make it one Patriots lineup and one Seattle lineup, maybe this is chasing something or just picking a player because I think they're cool, but I'll give priority to Shaheed over Cooper Kupp and AJ Barner. I mean,
okay, got it.
oh,
I like that.
John, sorry, real quick. Rashid Shaheed actually has a great matchup here. If they if the Patriots shadow JSN with Christian Gonzalez, that would almost necessarily leave Carlton Davis on Shaheed, and that is actually a very good reason for the Patriots to not shadow JSN with Christian Gonzalez, because if Davis has to defend Shaheed, I don't know if the safety saves you there.
Yeah, no, that's a good call. And, you know, Shaheed, I mean, all it takes is one when it comes to him and that big play ability. So I'm gonna have a hard time staying away from Shaheed in my DFS interests for this coming Super Bowl 60.
And
Right, so
John, and if this is a Seattle dominant lineup that we're sticking, I'll definitely have their defense in there. I'd like to get Jason Myers too. Very quietly, he's kicked a lot of 50+ yarders the last 2 years. So special teams defense for the Patriots are, I think, a central consideration here. And I think you can even reason picking either or both of those, even if you're projecting the Patriots to win. Because if this is a low scoring game and if the touchdowns are if there's a low ratio of touchdowns to yardage from scrimmage or something like that, a guy like Myers can knock down 3 field goals from 50+, and the Seahawks could play great on defense and still lose in a 21-17 kind of game or something like that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, again, I think that the total is pretty informative. 45.5. We're expecting a rather low scoring game in this spot. So don't forget about the kickers for your showdown lineups. Definitely. Why don't we hit some props? I'm going to pull up our picks and props page over on RotoWire, of course. This is a nifty little tool that we've got. It's got the offerings from different books, and then how our projections like them, and the hit rates, and so on and so forth. So it's got like Rashid Shaheed at a tantalizing 28.5 rushing and receiving yards total. It's got Trevion Henderson tantalizing again, 16.5 is his rushing yardage prop. Drake May 38.5 is his. Well, we like the less on that one according to our system. I could see him getting there. I don't know. I could see a big run from
Man,
Drake
him
May,
and Shaheed
and then a couple other ones.
And Henderson, they only need one play for those kinds of numbers.
Yeah, exactly. So just giving everybody just a little peek at this page. I love referencing this before I lock in my slips every single week. Let's grab some touchdowns. Let's grab some touchdown scores. So I've got this pulled up as well. You can just go into the RotoWire, into the NFL betting section, and then click on this game, and down below we'll get your props. Score a touchdown. So I think Kenneth Walker, JSN, Ramondre are kind of like the chalkier ones, but once we get a little bit further down, where would your interests lie from the rest of these guys? Let's say from Hunter Henry on down to George Holani.
Yeah, it's right where you're hovering, John. Hunter Henry is pretty interesting because of, like we were talking about, the Seattle defense, be it by designed concession or a point of actual weakness. They've given up quite a bit of volume to tight ends, and even if you take out the Kittle and McBride games, I think that catch rate's probably pushing 70%, and the yardage is probably over 7 yards a target. So if you're giving up a 70% completed, 7 yards a target to opposing tight ends, you're probably not very good at it. And Hunter Henry's a good player. For that same reason, though, John, I probably like Austin Hooper at whatever his number is, because he's quietly playing like 30 snaps, sometimes 40 or so
plus
snaps.
750.
Albeit mostly as a blocker, but that's all the more reason why if you get into the the 5-yard line, goal to go situations, that the unknown quiet tight end is oftentimes the one who gets that play action red zone touchdown, specifically because they only run 5 routes a game.
Mhm.
So if not Henry, I feel like Hooper probably does, even though Hooper's a long shot. It's like if you tell me Henry does nothing, then I don't believe Hooper is a long shot at that point. But yeah, the Seattle side, it's a similar sort of dynamic between Cup and Barner. So I don't really know how to call it. I do feel somewhat safe, and this is the jinx. I feel somewhat safe saying if it's Eric Saubert instead of Elijah Arroyo, then it can only be Barner that's catching tight end passes in the game. Arroyo very much can draw targets, but if he's not playing, it's just Saubert, and the Saubert presence leaves slack that only Barner and Cup can pick up.
I wonder if this is like if we're getting close to Cup's last game. I feel like
I
he's
don't know what
got
he does
a little
exactly. I
something.
have to say, I don't doubt that it's just not showing up in the box score, and that he's doing a lot of dirty work in the run game that Kubiak values. But AJ Barner was literally the more productive pass catcher this year than Cooper Cup, and AJ Barner is barely supposed to run routes.
He's just such a dog. Like he's got that crazy beard going on. I don't know. I feel like he's got a little something in this game, but not a lot of numbers for my argument. It's more like beard metrics, I
This is like
suppose.
the Ahab energy or something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, he's got it. Let's see here. All right, why don't we get to our predictions, and then we're going to hit a little bit of best ball to close out the show. I did a draft on Friday of last week to just kind of get a sense of the pool. So I'll pull up the draft board for that. But all right, Mario, let's hear it. What's our final calls for Super Bowl 60?
Again, I have no conviction at all as I say this. I didn't have that much conviction last year either when I picked the Eagles to win, but I have less conviction now when I pick the Patriots. As I said, my process, which I don't have much, I don't put much into it, and I wouldn't blame anyone for not finding it compelling at all. I just sort of looked matchups, the interactions between the two teams. It looks to me like it's a lot of strength versus strength or weakness versus weakness. There isn't a lot of clear ways to attack, and what differentiates in really close matchups, if it is a true premise that if the premise is sound that this will be a close game with strengths running into strengths and weaknesses being thwarted by other weaknesses, then sometimes the really fluky stuff is what makes the difference. And so special teams certainly comes to mind in a game where Rashid Shaheed, very, very good punt returner, good kick returner, and Marcus Jones, one of the best punt returners ever. Like Rashid Shaheed is a really, really, really dangerous punt returner. Marcus Jones is still on another level. So if the Seahawks are foolish enough to kick a punt that Marcus Jones can return, that could be the game. If the turnovers between the quarterbacks. Both quarterbacks are vulnerable, I think, to the pass rushes here. Especially on the edge, but pretty much everywhere. Sam Darnold, the interior, especially the right guard spot. If either of these points fail in the offensive line for either team, it could be enough to set that quarterback back in the game in a way that they just can't really catch up. If the other team successfully just sits on the ball after a fluky turnover for a touchdown or something like that. So that's why I said earlier, it's like I'm worried about this being a game where the MVP, the Super Bowl MVP, is a Larry Brown or a Desmond Howard or a Dexter Jackson or something like that, where it comes down to just there's not enough points scored by other players that it all comes down to a really fluky play. And who knows what it would look like, but I'll take the Patriots. 21-19, but I don't know why.
Okay, good enough for me. I have the Patriots winning this one 24-21. So I'm more convinced that the Patriots cover 4.5 than win outright.
Yeah.
I just feel like 4.5, like that's crossing a couple of key numbers. That's more than a field goal, and then more than 4 points. It's like the way that the Patriots have played this year. Like I feel like this is a field goal game, one way or the other. So I'm taking the points is kind of like my best bet.
Myers
on
is really
game.
locked in, and Aurora Borealis, he might be good, but he's at best in the meantime okay.
Are the Northern Lights too bright? for Aurora Borealis. We shall
Can
see.
they be seen through the haze of the electricity station and Levi Stadium or whatever?
People are asking. We're asking the right questions on this.
You don't know.
As far as random guys potentially winning MVP, there are posted props to that effect. If you don't want to get specific with it, you can just take a defensive player to win Super Bowl MVP. That is 13-1 over at DraftKings. So that might be of
especially
interest
if Marcus Jones qualifies. That would be by punt return more specifically.
Sure. That's obviously going to kind of swing things if there is a special teams touchdown. It's I guess you could have.
I just meant like if it's technically a defensive player, then and if Marcus Jones satisfies the definition, then it's he's a way that it could occur more likely than a Christian Gonzalez or whatever.
Yeah, so I would think that he at least qualifies for defensive player. If you want to get specific, you are able to do specific position groups. So cornerback would be 3,000, linebacker would be 4,000, safety would be 30-1. I'm sorry, linebacker 40-1, safety 50-1, offensive lineman 500-1. If you want to waste your money that way.
That's a Vrabel bat signal right there.
Oh no, that's concerning. Let's see. And then I think my most realistic that still has some juice to it as far as the MVP. Marcus Jones, by the way, is 60-1. So that's actually not.
I gotta say, the Seahawks would be completely insane to punt to Marcus Jones. They should literally do whatever it takes so that he does not get even one chance to return a punt. But if they fail to meet that demand, they might not like the results.
I trust Michael Dixon. He'll just boom it. He's Australian and so on. He's like the best player that Texas had for like a 15-year stretch, basically. But going back to what I was saying real quick, I think Ramondre at 28-1 would probably be my Super Bowl MVP bet based on the combination of odds and likelihood. I think is probably how I'd go about it. And then you're of course allowed to pick specific players if you wanted to get crazy with it. Like DeMarcus Lawrence is 90-1, Witherspoon 100-1, Gonzalez 100-1, that type of stuff.
This is that kind of game, man. I'm feeling it. It's gonna be like a Boye Mafe Super Bowl MVP kind of Super Bowl.
That'd be cool. I like Boye Mafe. You got a pick for Gatorade color?
Oh, this is not predetermined. Huh.
Orange is the chalk.
I'll go with blue.
Okay. Blue tied with orange as the chalk at plus 250. You chalk donkey.
Donkey. Donkey pick. Okay. Let's go with the yellow, the greenish yellow.
Okay, that'll get us plus 275. I like it. All right. That's enough of the goofy goober segment there. But Mario has the Patriots winning, was it 21-19?
Yeah.
And I have the Patriots winning 24-21. So get a little bit of extra room if you place your bet at Hard Rock. They have the posted total at 46.5. 45.5 is your total over at FanDuel and some other shops as well. So if you like the under, places like Hard Rock might be a place where you can find just a little bit more cushion. All right, we're going to get into some best ball. If I can succinctly manage our technicals here.
It's revolting.
We're almost there.
Oh well.
No, it's not.
Oh, you got it.
We're good. Look at that.
Oh, nice.
Bam. And I'm even doing the courtesy of hiding everybody's screen names. I don't know, some people have crazy screen names on Underdog. It's like, what are you doing, man? But I picked 5th in this one. So I'm the Jahmyr Gibbs team. I was surprised to get him at 5. So again, to set this back up, there are best ball contests over on Underdog that have already launched. They've actually been up for a little bit here, so you don't even have to wait until after the Super Bowl to do your little board and big board drafts. These go 20 rounds, so I enjoy that on Underdog while they
More
still offer
rounds.
them.
More
More
rounds,
rounds,
please.
more
Always
life.
more rounds. I want 40 rounds. But seriously,
Yeah,
I do though.
they should do the sicko contest. All
You'd
right,
have to
so
know ball, John. You wouldn't be able to just make money by doing like arbitrage day trading nonsense. You have to actually know ball. Anyway, it'd be a great. They should really consider adding it as like a not to say it has to overtake their other ones, but like make a sicko version of sicko.
Yeah, just throw us that bone, please. All right, so my team. I don't know. I mean, again, this is my first run, and like anytime it's like the first time you're seeing what the new ADP looks like, you're just kind of stunned by almost everything. So my team was Jahmyr Gibbs at 5, Derrick Henry at 2.8, T. Higgins, Lamar Jackson. I still have faith in Jalen Waddle. I took him at 5.5. That's kind of I mean, just looking at some of the other receivers that were in that range, like Sutton, I think would make some sense. I think there's at least a little bit more stability as far as that quarterback.
Talent is loud, though. I mean, I understand
That's what
he's
I
injury
chase.
prone, and we don't know what's going on with that team. At best, it's probably going to be some version of bad. But I always feel weird when I have to pass up on a real like blue chip player to take someone who is just situationally benefited. But yeah, I think if they get so much as a Jacoby Brissett at quarterback, I'm just like, oh yeah, Waddle's catching 100.
Speaking of Jacoby Brissett, I took Michael Wilson at 6.8. It is interesting that Marvin Harris, it's now like an ADP coin flip, at least I think, between Wilson and Harrison at 6.7 for Harrison, 6.8 for Michael Wilson. So I think Wilson's new ADP is worth mentioning because he was obviously like an end game darling this year. That was, he had one of the best end of the draft seasons of pretty much anyone in quite some time. Alec Pierce, similar boat, goes a little bit less than a round.
You called both of them, John.
I did like both of them. I was, I think, a little bit more vocal on Pierce than Wilson. I think Wilson.
It was both, though. I do specifically remember it was both on this very podcast.
That's right. Yeah. So we know what we're talking about pretty much. But what do you think of Wilson at this new ADP where I'll draw the comparison to like 2 years ago. We loved Chuba Hubbard in the 14th. We less so in the 5th like he was last year. So is this an overcorrection from the market as far as the new Wilson ADP?
I think it's a risky pick, and there's just a lot that Michael Wilson needs to go a certain way, if only in the sense that when he was so productive in 2025, it was a pretty weird situation the Cardinals were in with the Jacoby Brissett, the 50 pass attempt per game circus offense, the injury to Marvin Harrison. I do think Michael Wilson is good, though. This is not some Travis Fulgham situation or whatever. It's just, if this team has a bad quarterback, and I know I just mentioned Brissett as a candidate for the Dolphins, they'd have to trade him. He's currently got one more year left. If Brissett is the quarterback for the Cardinals, man, I don't know. Because it'd be one thing if I could just assume the prior coaching staff will sort of just keep that circus accumulating, all his empty calorie production of just spamming pass attempts. If we could assume that, then just knowing that intention plus Brissett's presence would be enough for me to say, yeah, it's going to work for Wilson. But if they change a bunch of parts of the formula at once to replace it with something that needs time to rebuild and transition and stuff, I think that would fall pretty hard on Wilson's margins at this price. Mm-hmm. And at the very least, even as someone who liked Wilson as a prospect, not that I foresaw him doing quite that well last year, I did not I did not think Michael Wilson could be like a true wide receiver 1 in the NFL, and I still am skeptical of that. I always thought he could be a really good wide receiver 2, but those numbers, last year is like 14 catches in a game. It's like that. I don't think he's that kind of guy. So I do think Marvin Harrison is still the better player, and also people got to remember Marvin Harrison will probably improve. It's pretty common for receivers to get better around like year 3 or something like that. So if I have to take Wilson at the same price as Harrison, or certainly if I have to take Wilson earlier than Harrison, I probably won't be picking him that much unless the Cardinals add some quarterback that I don't even know how they would do it. It's someone good enough at a quarterback to get both Harrison and Wilson the viable target count that they deserve, but did not get for most of their time in Arizona.
Arizona is a great place for old people. Kirk Cousins. Yeah.
I just mean, is it good for I thought it'd be good for Scorpions and
it's an affront to God, the amount of people that live in Arizona. No offense, anybody. I've had a lot of great times in Scottsdale, but it's like we're in the desert. It's like Vegas. Like,
it's always my least favorite bar rescue episodes. I'm always like, just it feels like the apocalyptic suburbia tone and like that Twin Peaks The Return season when they're in those abandoned Las Vegas neighborhoods.
Yeah, you can
that's what everyone feels
from
like
your TV.
Like, God, the doom factor is like breaking through the screen. Anyway,
yes. But my point being that Cousins, I think would make some sense for Arizona depending on how their quarterback situation unfolds, and I think Cousins at the very least could give us that sweet spammy offense. And I don't know if they'll have like the backfield personnel to do anything else. So
that team's not going to be good, by the way. I don't like that LaFleur, the lesser LaFleur. I don't even really like the other one that much anymore.
No, the greater LaFleur is not that great. Let's see. I also took Kyle Pitts. New Kyle Pitts ADP just dropped middle of round 7. So he went after Harold Fannin. I took him before Kraft. I don't know if I would do that again, but at the same time, Kraft did
the ACL.
Yeah, tough. It's tough to come back from that first year, and it's not like he hurt it super early on in the season or anything. So Pitts in the mid 7th. Say again.
Kraft still has to block a lot, and I know he put up the big numbers last year, but he has to put ridiculous yards per target and touchdown rate numbers to sustain what he did last year, whereas Kyle Pitts and the vast majority of other tight ends in the ADP in the top 15 do not need to block as much as Kraft does.
Nope. And I feel like what we saw from Pitts down the stretch, not to say that we can expect that every single game, but I think that I like the Stefanski hire. I feel like that this is gonna finally be. Yeah, Pitts is really good. I feel like this is going to be his time to kind of actually, make his fantasy investors very happy. So those of us that never lost faith, we're back. Let's see. I don't know if you'll probably hate this picture. Darian Price in the 8th round. I don't know. I needed a running back. I think I only had 2 running backs.
That could be a good pick. We were talking in the last episode, John, about the running back market in this draft, and how the weakness of this draft could create something unexpected, like a team looking at Jadarian Price and just saying all these other first round candidates that we could pick right now are going to be backups for us. This guy can make the team better right now, even as he'll also be a backup. He'll be like a running back too, but the kick returning and the big playability. Some team could look at that in this thin of a draft and take Price at pick 25 or something like that.
So I feel like 8th round worthy gamble at this particular stage. I got Wan'Dale Robinson. Not totally sure how I feel about that, but it's fine. Jaden Higgins in the 10th.
Sorry, I was gonna say Wan'Dale Robinson's better in full point PPR, obviously, but I think he's the real deal. Maybe he's going to go to another team in free agency, but if he lands on a team that knows what it's doing, I probably will have a bunch of Wan'Dale this year.
I like if Higgins stays in the late 10th the way that I got him. I'm going to get a lot of that. I understand the hesitance of the Houston offense after what we saw
That's almost
from
where he went
CJ
last
Stroud.
year.
Yeah, it's basically like there's no movement from his ADP last year, despite him. I felt like he overperformed expectations this year, and he's going to be entering, year 2. You still got Nico Collins there to draw a lot of oxygen from the opposing defensive attention. I think Higgins is definitely worth that like late 10th.
Yeah, I was concerned that it would more so take a 7th or an 8th to get him, but if you can get Higgins in the 10th, so you went with the Higgins stack then, John, with the
Yeah,
T.
yeah,
Nice. I
that's
think,
right. Nice, good memory.
I think Jaden Higgins is going to catch at least 80 passes this year. That's just, and by that I'm only really drawing on what I think of him as a player. It's not so much that I'm like, the Texans are going to do it this particular way, and it's going to happen on this rhythm and these bases. No, it's just, to me, it's players like Higgins. Good players are sort of inevitable in some sense, and Higgins is just, he's going to get to that 80 catch mark pretty quick here.
I'm thinking so as well. So give me some of that. Consider me a Shuck believer. So I took him as my second quarterback. Now, as far as quarterback capital allocation is concerned, I did already have Lamar Jackson in the 4th, but I don't mind
Sorry,
taking
where'd you get Shuck?
I took Shuck in the 11th.
The 11th. Can you tell me some of the other? Can you tell me some of the other quarterbacks that are going in there? I mean, I don't have any idea what the ADP is in that genre.
So basically, you got. So this is right after Jordan Love and Bo Nix went. I took Shuck ahead of Sam Darnold, who went with the next pick. Then after that, you would have to wait until like the early part of the 12th round, where Bryce Young, Fernando Mendoza went, and then Malik Willis dangling.
Mm-hmm. So, John, in these 20-round underdog drafts, I think we can say the quarterback ADP is raised because by having that extra 2 spots, you can more easily get a third quarterback and still implement a tournament specific kind of strategy. Like in those 18-round drafts that underdog generally features later in the offseason, it's harder to have that third quarterback without it costing valued upside at like wide receiver 8 or whatever, whereas with the 20-round drafts, you see a lot more teams taking 3 quarterbacks, and therefore you see all of them go a little bit earlier.
It's true. So I'm trying to see if I can determine which quarterback he went.
I'll take a quarterback in the 1st round if that's what it takes to avoid taking Young in the 12th.
Yes, but Malik Willis, I feel like, is going to be an interesting guy in the 13th round. It might be better to get him sooner rather than before free agency, depending on how that goes. I took Mac Jones at the very end, but yeah, I don't know.
He might start somewhere.
Anything else?
If you're a team that's trying to do the kind of like quick rebuild into wild card competitiveness, and you're looking at that Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold model, it makes sense.
He fits that mold to me. So I've never been like a huge Mac Jones guy, but the way that he performed it again, San Francisco is going to like just kind of help raise your floor, but thought he looked pretty solid this past year, and I thought he looked solid in Jacksonville as well last year. So I could see him being like that next kind of reclamation project. I also, on the note of San Francisco, I'm not sure what Jake Tonjes's like contract situation is, but I'm basically like I'm under the assumption that Kittle's not going to play, or if he does play, it's not going to be until later in the season. He's not going to look like George Kittle. I thought Tonjes looked pretty solid this year. I know that San Francisco could also, add a tight end in free agency, add one in the draft, but as a late dart at tight end, like if Tonjes keeps staying in the 18th, I think I'm going to be pretty interested in that.
Can you tell me some of the other tight ends that went around Tonjes, just so I have an idea of his competition?
So I took him in the same round. Eli Stowers and Gunnar Helm both went before him. And after Tonjes, Evan Ingram. I guess this draft has really hated Evan Ingram. He went at the end of the 19th. Cole Kmet went at the start of the 20th. Yeah. And Michael Trigg went as the last pick in this draft.
I'm sorry, is that a rookie?
Some other guys that went. Yeah. He went to USC, Ole Miss, and Baylor. He finished up at Baylor this past year. He's all right. I don't know.
He missed my
he
little
has his hype
nets.
case.
Okay.
No, you cast a big nets, but I don't know. Some people
Yeah, I
like
don't trust this guy. I don't like that pick. I'd rather try my. You see some of these rookies going in the last couple of rounds, and it's like people don't know who they are.
Yeah.
I'd rather get a veteran tight end wherever I need to get, or some better rookie at least wherever I have to take them, to avoid taking Michael Trigg as my tight end 3.
That is a correct answer. Let me see if I can find where Sadiq went.
I like Stowers though. I'll be
Sorry,
interested if
audio.
that Houston guy goes someplace.
I don't know. Yeah,
John, can you hear me? Yeah, that Tanner Coles is old or whatever. Like
I like Stowers. He went in
goes,
the early 18th.
Oh, okay, interesting. So yeah, that's more the rookie tight end category.
Where I glitch out there for a second.
Anyway, yeah,
okay.
John.
I think I might have cut out there.
Sorry, I'm gonna shut up now.
I got you now. Okay. Well, I think I'm going to shut up now as well, because I feel like the computers are betraying us. But when we're getting into the deep weeds of tight end 3s at the end of a 20-round best ball in February, I think that's a good signal. We've covered a lot of ground on this podcast. So again, thanks for listening to this edition of the RotoWire Fantasy Football Podcast. Once again, you are able to cash in 15% off any subscription over at rotowire.com. Just go to rotowire.com, use that code YouTube15, get you set up for baseball season. Tons of off-season NFL content coming from Mario and myself. So please check us out if you have not signed up for the site. And again, appreciate you all listening. So again, for Mario Puig, I'm John McKechnie. Enjoy the Super Bowl, and thanks for listening.